everyone. Welcome to the Dice Tower's Board Game Breakfast. My name is Chris, and I'm going to be your unusual host for today. Unusual in both senses of the word. Tom, you may ask, where is he? Is he being replaced? He's not. Tom is enjoying some well-earned vacation time with his family, so I'll be filling in today. We'll be talking about a little bit of the schedule changes because of that in Dice Tower Productions, but never you fear, there's plenty of great content coming from the Dice Tower this week. But now we have breakfast, the most important meal of the day. So we're going to start with a contest sponsored by Pandasaurus Games. You'll notice this lovely game up here on our wall called Brew. We're giving away count them, three copies in the USA, Canada, and Australia. So if you're interested in possibly winning a copy of this, go ahead and email us at contest@dicetower.com. And in the subject line, put potions. Why? Because you're brewing potions in this game. And so the question that you'll have to answer if you want to win a copy of this is how many types of potion ingredients are there in brew? So once again, contest@dicetower.com. Go ahead and email as the information is up there. Subject line potions. So that is going to be our contest for today. And so why don't we start this off with some contributors.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from People University and the Dice Tower.
So last week we left you in suspense. Stella had a story about a tiebreaker. Do go.
Alright, so one of the most funniest, it's not ridiculous, it's just unbelievable when I read it, is a tiebreaker in Battlelands. So this is by Plate Hat Games, and I was reading the rule book, end of game. So there are a few of the normal tiebreakers, but then the last paragraph, if there is still a tie, email colby@platehatgames.com. Begin the subject line with the word tie. Include the names of the tied players in the body of the email, each on a separate line. Include no additional information. I, Colby Dodge, founder and head of studio at Platehead Games, will feed individual letters of alphabet soup in a sequence that spells out the names of the tied players to a team of 3 postcards. I will retrieve the egg laid by the most talented of the 3, crack the egg open, and transcribe the name written thereupon in a return email. The player to whom that name belongs shall forever be the undisputed winner of that game of Battlelands. So say we all. See? Do you believe me now? Town didn't know anything about this.
Yes, a little bit of spare space to fill in the rulebook, I guess.
Isn't that the funniest one? I mean, if you have found anything like that, please let us know in the comments. So I'd like to just check it out and see what other people's got there. And that's it. We are Meeple University on YouTube and also on the Dice Tower. See you next time.
Hi everyone, it's Clara and I'm talking about board games, considering digital and physical versions of those games. And today's game, I've played a lot of the physical version of the game, and I've played a fair amount digitally as well. The game is Mysterium, and Mysterium is basically a cooperative version of Dixit. There are cards on the table that the clue giver is trying to get their friends to guess, and so you have a collection of clue cards and you give them, and you try and communicate without speaking through these clue cards to get your friends to guess particular cards on the table. And so it might be, because the clue cards are random, so it might be that in your hand you have one that's got a bathtub, and the card you want them to get has got a bathtub on it. It's like brilliant. And so you play this card with the bath on it because it's so obvious, and the person that you're playing it for says, oh, this card's got a lot of blue on it, and therefore it must be the one card on the table that has no blue on it. And you look at them like, no, that's not what I was trying to get you to guess. I won't read too much into it though. The cards are fairly random, and the artwork is beautiful, and there's a really great app version of it. It works really well. It's on Steam, which is where I've played it, and the music's good and the app just works. But it doesn't hit in the same way. I'm playing it with the exact same group of people that I play physically, and yet for some reason, whether it's just not being able to see people's micro expressions. Maybe this is just a game that's better when you're with your friends. I don't know, but for some reason it doesn't seem to work quite as well as the physical version, even though it's a good app. I will say though, the AI is not on my wavelength, not at all. But yeah, Mysterium, I love the game. I'd rather play the physical version, although I will play the app. And yeah, until next time, bye.
All right, we're here to show off a few more Board Game Geek Store little items here. I will say I've never played the digital Mysterium, and I'm not sure that that's a game that would work in that format, but this coffee mug here, this shiny little one right here, Board Game Geek, very orange on the inside, kind of cool. However, this one, I'm sorry, it pales in comparison to this little chunky barrel type thing over here. Look at this. Look at this. You know what? And one concern I always have with mugs that are a little bit smaller rimmed is if you can wash them, but I've had no problem, being able to fit my big old maws into there. So I like these little Board Game Geek mugs. Other things that are featured on the store are a couple of games. These are ones that are not typically published in the United States or have like normal distribution. So some of these are from Mandu or other, I believe these are all Asian publishers. When you get them, they kind of look like this, where they'll have the English instructions kind of taped onto the back, but I mean, no problems with shipping. This has a plastic cover on it. So kind of cool. This one is Merchants of Dunhuang, Black Swan. This is one that Tom reviewed, actually, and it's really interesting because this does come with the English instructions taped on the back, as the others. But this one is mostly a deck of cards, but on mahjong tiles, which is kind of cool. And then this one, Alluvium. I've not heard of this one before, but this is similar to Cartographers, where you're flipping cards, drawing on here, but you're passing your sheets around every turn. So some interesting games that you can only find there on the Geek Store. But this is the one that I'm most excited about. This is one of the artist series of games here, and this is actually one of my favorite games of all time, Dominion. But this is artwork by Kyle Farron, known mostly for Root, as well as Vast and Oath in the Leader Games series. This is adorable. I wasn't sure how I was going to like it at first, but it's really attentive to detail, right? There's Thief. There is that Chancellor, I believe, the Village card. This is, if you know Dominion, this is adorable. Smithy, I believe that is that Cartographer. The animals on here are just absolutely adorable, like Kyle Farron's style. There's Mine, there's Cellar. I'm sure that I could, Witch. I didn't even notice that one before. There's Witch. So I'm sure that you could just stare at this for a while and just appreciate, this is obviously the Moat card. So I really, really like this one. And we have more of these to show off in future segments here of the Board Game Geek Store segment. But this is one that I was particularly excited to show off. So yeah, there we go. Why don't we just jump over to some more contributors then?
Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews, and today I am talking about Escape: The Curse of the Temple. Now this is probably at this point considered a classic game, right? This is a real-time game. It's played in exactly 10 minutes. And just to show you how old it is, the game comes with a CD. That's right, a compact disc you can play. It has kind of this foreboding music going in the background, with all this jungle gun, music going on. It's only 10 minutes long. Obviously, the track is 10 minutes long, and you have to escape, placing back all these gems that you've taken throughout the course of the game. Well, you've taken it before the game starts, I guess. Now you're escaping. I don't know. But now you're placing them back, and you have to escape the temple, having, put back the majority of these gems. It's really, really stressful, but it's the good kind of stress. You're just rolling dice furiously. There's dice that can even lock you up and make it so that you can't move around. And there's ways to get out of that, but sometimes you might have to have somebody come help you, or add on some more gems to your objective just so you can lock up, free up some dice. it's just tons of anxiety going on in this game. There's a lot of expansions that you can add on as well. You know, Queen Games loves to add on expansions and Queenies and all that stuff to their games. This is no exception. There's even a big box version out there. The Illusions one is probably my favorite. It actually has tiles that disappear on you. So let's say you're walking through an area and then a tile disappears and then you have to walk back. There's no room tile there anymore. So it's a lot of fun. I will say this is not a game for people who don't want that stress, that anxiety. It is a cooperative game. It's a full cooperative game. You're all working together. And if there's one person who's you know, I don't know about that. Read the room. This might not be for everybody, but we have a good time playing it. All right, you guys, this is Ryan from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
What is up? My name is Melissa McCack from Room 51, and this is Smashing Buttons and Slamming Cards. This is a segment where I talk about a video game I love and I connect it to a board game I love. And this week, I want to talk about Soma, the video game. Soma is a psychological thriller of a game where you're going through in first person, pretty much just trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and you are going through different rooms and figuring out puzzles, and everything is just sort of like a creepy vibe as to like, what is this place? Now I want to focus specifically on the puzzly nature of the game and the psychological thriller part of that game and connect it to Subterra. So Subterra is a game that I recently picked up and I have been loving it. It is a co-op style game. I would say it's a psychological thriller. You are cavers down in this cave, I guess, underground, and I think it was that like there was some sort of tragic accident that happened and now you've fallen through and now you're trying to figure out how to get out, right? And you're trying to find the exit of this place, and there's all types of things that are going on. There's monsters that are coming at you and your flashlight is dying and you could be drowning in the flood that all of a sudden happened and tremors and everything. So this game is a lot of fun. I have been loving it. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like, you could check out mine and my brother's channel called Room 51. I'll catch you next time.
Now, let's all be nice to Ryan for saying that the CD, the compact disc, if you will, is an ancient piece of technology that only troglodytes like me still use. I don't quite have an 8-track player in my Studebaker, but it's Dice Tower Productions time, so let's talk about what's coming out this week. Today, as I'm filling in for Tom on Board Game Breakfast, we'll have a live Q&A at noon Eastern Time featuring one Roy Cannaday. So make sure to come check out, pepper him with some good questions. Also, we have a few reviews from Liz coming out this week, Liz Davidson, who does great work. We started this last weekend a new series in conjunction with Story Board Game with Fulvio Pisano, who does these Italian trailers, basically, these board game theatrical, cinematic-looking movie trailer type things. So there's one of those up for photosynthesis, and another one is going to go up this week for Last Aurora. So make sure to check that out tomorrow, as well as a Q&A, live Q&A with Z Garcia. There'll be no 5 more great games this week, as Tom is also out tomorrow. So you get a chance to come chat and hang out with Z. Tom will be back by Wednesday, so of course we're going to be doing some crowd surfing. We have Shoots and Marbles will be rescheduled to Wednesday as well. So Wednesday is going to be a powerhouse day, thinking about it. Woo! Crowd surfing at 2 and then Shoots and Marbles at 3:30. Thursday there's a top 10 list. Top 10 beautiful on the inside games, which yes means difficult to look at on the outside. Let's see, there'll be plenty of reviews going up each day, but this Sunday there will be 4 squares of this one right here, Mind Management. Tom reviewed the comic series that this is kind of based off of, and so this weekend we'll be talking about the game itself. So that's what we got coming from the Dice Tower this week. Let's move along.
Hey there everyone, it's Jen, the board game librarian, flipping some pages and pushing some cubes with my segment From the Page to the Table, where I pair books and board games together. A couple weeks ago I talked about Michelle Moran and how much I love her books. Well, no exception with Madame Tussaud. So we have Madame Tussaud in the French Revolution, and how she is this like rebel of a woman in a man's world, and she's doing this thing and it's so awesome, and she essentially has lived for eternity, right? We know this wax museum, we know her work, but to be able to put a story to that work, I thought was excellent. Now, the game that I picked with this is a lot less serious than this book is. Great book. And I apparently have no other French Revolution games other than Guillotine. Yep, the classic French Revolution game where you are chopping off nobles' heads. Silly, irreverent, definitely for a certain crowd. Guillotine has been in our collection forever, seems like. We go through periods where we play it a lot, we have a chuckle, we get out the extra cart and put more nobles in the line. I always wanted to have the bad nun in my collection because, I think so easy to teach people. We've taught my husband's mother how to play this game, and it was a big hit. So we need a lot of games like this in our collections and in our lives to really bring in more non-gamers. So on that note, have you played Guillotine? What French Revolution games do you have in your collection? I'd love to know. Happy breakfast!
I even had my own bumper made for me on that. Chris thinks. Seldom, but when I do, it's fantastic. So I was thinking about substitutions, one because, not mostly, but a little bit because I'm filling in, obviously, but I was thinking of substitutions in the sense of sometimes a game is one that you love. It's a beloved game. It's cherished, one might say. And then a new game comes along. And sometimes you love that new game and it fits some sort of maybe similar category. It's a medium weight worker placement game, or it's a, it's a fun romping co-op game or something. There's these games that sometimes scratch the same itch. As a buddy of mine, Greg, used to say, it rubs the same rash. That phrase never quite caught on. But you have this rash rubbing game that fits with something else in your collection. And if you're like me, you have a limited shelf space. And so sometimes games have to go. And it's interesting, I've noticed that I will sometimes let a game go when another game does do that, scratch the same itch, when they're not even that similar of games. So I'll give you an example of Raiders of the North Sea. Graced my collection for a long time. But for some reason, when Paladins of the West Kingdom came along, even though it's not really in the same weight of game, it's much more complex, it's much more difficult. Something about it, for my personal collection, made me say, oh, this is the game that I want to pull out more than Raiders. A lot of the games I play at my own home are for 2 players. And so Paladins had just a little bit more of a thinky experience, and so I ended up pulling Raiders off the shelf from its beloved little Garfield Games box-sized spot on the shelf, and I slid Paladins right in. Now, is that fair? Mike gave me a thumbs down, so it's not. But as odd as it is, they're not really that similar of games, but it was kind of a substitution for me. I have limited shelf space, and if we're living one game in, one game out, well, it fit the shelf perfectly, but sometimes we make these substitutions, even if they're not rational, even if they're not great. Sometimes we love a game, and then another one comes, and we make room for that other one. We only have so much finite space, so much finite memory. How many game rules can you teach offhand and everything? And so Paladins is the one that I wanted to invest in. Been seeing some games doing that recently, and it makes me think, how rational am I being with my substitutions? Is Destiny going to be a long-term replacement for games like Mansions of Madness? I don't know, we'll have to see. But in the meantime, I think that I'll try to keep that in mind as I'm deciding what's going to stay and what's going to go on my shelf. Anyway, that's nothing important. That's just what I've been thinking about. Let's move on to some more contributors.
Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk to you about Railroad Inc. /Railroad Inc. Challenge. Railroad Ink, Deep Blue and Blazing Red being the originals, and now there is Shining Yellow and Lush Green as well. There's other expansions available, but these are effectively the 4 base games. The biggest difference is probably the fact that the challenge versions have challenges. These objective goal cards that weren't in the original sets, they do differ between green and yellow, but effectively they're things like having a loop on your board somewhere, or having 3 of the 4 corners filled in. When you've done that during a round, you score points, and depending on who does it first in the rounds, you get more points. So, you know, if 2 players do the same one within the same round, they both score the same amount of points. It's a nice extra thing that you can aim for, and to be honest, playing them and going for some gold cards, not going for others, they're fairly balanced. You don't get masses of points. It's a few here and a few there. You know, maybe like 4 is the maximum. So they're not massively impactful. They're just that little bit extra to think about. So that is Railroad Ink Challenge, and not Challenge, I suppose. Now, if you're a D&D fan and a Board Game Breakfast fan, you can combine those loves now, because a few contributors and myself have put together the Dragons Collective, which is basically a knockoff version of Board Game Breakfast, all about D&D, Pathfinder and RPGs. You can check that out now on my channel, Don't Be Bored. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Oliver East, signing out.
Howdy folks, welcome to By the Numbers. My name is Hunter Thomason from the Family Showdown. On this episode of By the Numbers, we're continuing my Through the Year series, where I look at the best game of Board Game Geek by year. Started way back in 1970, this time 2012. Taking a look at the top 5 from 2012, we see the number 1 game is War of the Ring, 2nd edition, coming in at number 13. But it's the 2nd best war game of all time, according to Board Game Geek.
2012 is my number 1.
Wow!
It's not even close, Mike.
Really?
This year is so important.
War of the Ring is an epic strategy game based on Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien.
1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them, in the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Pits the forces of the Shadow Army against the Fellowship and armies of the Free People. Best game ever. Take a look at the ratings, over 14,000 of them. We see lots of high scores for an overall rating of 8.5. Take a look at the weight, it comes at a 4.16. This is about right for a very, very heavy, epic strategy game for 2 players. If you're looking for an epic 2-player experience, War of the Ring might be the game for you. See you next time.
Oliver, that had a really good little rotating Lazy Susan shot. I imagine that he was off camera, just, you know, tilting it, rotating it perfectly evenly. Well, it's time for Chris Reviews Other Stuff. And today I'm going to be talking about a Netflix cartoon series called Dragon Prince. The Dragon Prince is made by, well, one of the lead writers on it was also one of the lead writers from another TV show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's a series that I really enjoyed. I blew through that with my family. And so then hearing that The Dragon Prince was also good, and then hearing that it was getting a 2-player skirmish card game, battle, miniatures game coming out here in a little bit by Brotherwise Games, I thought, well, I've always wanted to watch the show, and if it'll help me know a little bit more about this game coming out in the future, why not? And it's very kid appropriate. It's wonderful how enthralling this little fantasy world is, and our 5-year-old daughter could really get into it. Connected with all the characters, they make them humorous, enjoyable, but also deep. This is a fantasy world that is very fleshed out, that I was surprised by. I mean, I thought it was going to be good, okay. The animation is rough when you first start watching it. It is that computer-generated CG style that looks like animation, but you can 100% tell that it's not like hand-drawn animation. And so there's moments where it is way worse than others. So I had a little bit of trepidation going into it, but by the end of the first episode, I was hooked. I looked at my 5-year-old who I needed to go send to bed, and I thought, well, I want to watch another one. So it's a really neat little series. It has, if you've watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's broken up into books and chapters, so seasons and episodes. But each book is around a certain type of element or about a certain type of arc. And they do a good job of building up to it. Each episode ends with, I want to watch the next one. It's not cheap cliffhangers. It's not 1960s or 1940s serial Batman crashes an airplane. What happens next? Next episode, he just walks out of it. This is really good overarching story that, because of that being filled out and good, it made me want to watch the next episode. So very kid appropriate, has very good representation and diversity. There's even one of the warriors in the show is deaf, and so they show this fantasy sign language going on, and I think, have fun. If you have a show where dragons can shoot lightning and fire, you can have a deaf person be a warrior. How cool! It was very fun to see, and it led for little opportunities for with our 5-year-old talking about what sign language is and what that means. And so I really like the show, both for the fighting and the action and the magic that goes on it, and dragons, I suppose, if you like nerd stuff like Hunter on his By the Numbers likes that type of stuff, then you might really enjoy The Dragon Prince, and especially with a game coming out, I always like to know a little bit more going in. So Dragon Prince, I highly, highly recommend. It's on Netflix. Really enjoyed it. I blew through the first 3 seasons of it, and there's a few more that'll be coming in the future, so I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of looking forward, we have some final contributors to get to.
Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex, and today I want to recommend the epic game Tidal Blades Heroes of the Reefer. Heroes of the Reef. Sorry about that. Recently I went snorkeling at a reef, and I should know the name of this. When I say this game is epic, I mean it. There is a lot going on here. When people see it laid out on the table, they're going to have one of 2 reactions. Oh, wow, that's impressive. Oh, man, I'm excited. Nope. Why is it doing so much? I came here to play a game, not be a city planner. Those dice do look pretty cool, though. I'm not going to go into everything here because you can't make me, but Tidal Blades is a worker placement dice rolling game. Once you wrap your head around this game, it is tight. And to be honest, it's not as overwhelming as it seems at first glance. When you first see it, you're like, oh, I'll never be able to figure this out. And then you play it once and you're like, I figured this out. This is the type of game I love playing to beat my previous scores. Yes, I want to play against other people, but if I can beat my previous score, I feel pretty good. The very first time I played this game, I scored 27 points. The most recent time I played this game, I scored 47 points. Feel pretty good about it. I wrote home to my mom. Yep. She likes getting letters from me, so it was nice to have something to write about,
Well, everyone, that is breakfast for today. I'm grateful for all the contributors who made it more interesting than just watching me sitting here. But of course, so yes, sincere thank you to all the contributors. Make sure to watch out for next Thursday will be the other board game breakfast, and that'll be with the full cohort of Tom, Z, and Mr. Stephen Bonacore. After this, at 10 o'clock, or in roughly a half an hour, Z will be going live with What's Appening. He'll be playing the Epic card game app. And then, of course, if you want to see Brew in action, you can come back on Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll be doing a live playthrough of Brew for your entertainment and for your education. So, from everyone here at the Dice Tower, and especially from me, thank you for coming by. Hope you enjoyed your breakfast, and everyone, have a great day.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.